Yo, what's good YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have the final prediction video for the upcoming 2021 NFL season. One thing I have to mention real quick is I got my wisdom teeth pulled out only 2 days ago, so if I sound loss of words, that explains why. Anyways, I've been working on this video for weeks at end, hours at time, and I finally have it done, the 2021 NFL prediction. I'm not going to waste your time, however, I did make a way too early prediction video way back in February or March when the season ended, the 2020 season. It's just a basically really simple prediction video which only had the records, but this prediction video is going to go more in depth. It's going to have a game-by-game prediction for every single NFL team. That's not it, however, because I am going to cover the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but more on that later. Let's talk about this. Before this video starts, read it like a book. On every single sheet for every single team, you're going to see week 1 is going to start on the left, and read it from left to right. For an example, on the right here, you can see you have the Bucks, a W next to their icon. That means that team won that game. Or you can have an L, that means that team lost the game. Home and away games. Last year I did versus or at the tell if it's a home or away game, but this year's a little bit different, and it might be kind of hard to see, so I'm sorry about that. But there will be a square outline around the team's icons, which are home games. The away games will have a gray outline. So you can see an example at the bottom here. The home game, it has a colored square outline around the icon, and the away game does not, it's just gray. Some other important things to mention real quick. The bye weeks will not be shown. I'll not show you where the bye weeks are, and I do not actually have the weeks numbered. It just starts from left to right, like I said. And there could be some mistakes. There's a total of 272 matchups in NFL season, meaning that the total win-loss record, it should equal 272 to 272. That could be a little off, but if you catch a mistake, let me know, and understand that any errors by me will not significantly change my opinion on my predictions. And full game-by-game predictions, they're kind of hard to make, so please bear with me. This took a lot of time. You guys got to understand how I got to go through every single team, got to write down a win, got to write down a loss. I got to go through all of it. It's hard to make, but of course, you guys can bash me down below in the comments if you don't agree with my predictions. I still stand by these predictions, even though there's some that's just, it's kind of hard to swallow. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and start with our predictions, and we'll start with the AFC North. Alright, let's start with the team which I have 4th in the AFC North, and it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, where do I start with this team? Let's just talk about the future of this team, because the future is in good hands with Joe Burrow. This team is starting to get weapons for Joe Burrow, and they're starting to build an entire new team after going into this really long rebuilding process. Look, 7 wins, that's pretty respectable for the Bengals. They're coming off the just #1 pick about 2 years ago now, and they're going to slowly start working their way up to contention now, but the AFC North is still a hard division to compete in. I got them losing 10 games. You can see they start off with a few wins here and out, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they're only soon to get better. 7-10 is where I have them here. You can take a look at that right here, and like I said, the colored outlines, those are the home games, so the black outlines, those are their home games. So 7-10 for the Bengals, and 3rd in the AFC North is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now this one's my first controversial pick in this video. 8-9, and they finished 3rd in the AFC North. Why is that? Well, you just got to think this team is going to start regressing a little bit. After having those bad losses to end the season when they started out so good, they started 11-0, and they started collapsing. I think it's just going to keep on going down that hill from there. Ben Roethlisberger, he's getting older. This team is getting older. The defense is regressing a little bit. This team has just dealt with everything at the end of the season, and I think going into this new season, it's not going to change. Their division is only getting tougher as well. Their competition is getting tougher, and I just see them struggling this year. I don't see them repeating the same success they had last year. They're kind of a one-and-done team in my opinion, but I could be totally wrong. 8-9 is around the Steelers. There's really not much else to say. I think this team can be good, but it's just an up-and-down situation. My floor for them would probably be 7 wins, and my ceiling would probably be around 10 or 11 wins. But just for now, the Steelers, 3rd in the AFC North. You can take a look at their schedule and their losses here. And 2nd in the AFC North, I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to finish over 500 just at 9-8. Okay, I think this team is going to be much better than the record shows that I have predicting, because let's talk about this team, and more specifically the run game. The run game was like #1 or #2 in the league last year, right next to the Cleveland Browns, which are also division. More about them later. But now you got to think is that this team is starting to do something really good, and they're starting to get weapons for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson did not have the weapons to throw to in the air. He just had to use his feet and run, and he had to hand the ball off and let them run. And now this team has offensive weapons besides their tight end, which they can count to get the end zone. They've already had Hollywood Brown, but now they got the new rookie, which I think is Rashad Bateman. They're just starting to grow on what they already had, and they're adding more offensive firepower for Lamar Jackson. That's exactly what he needs. Like I said, I think their record does not show how good this team's going to be. I just think they're going to struggle in the season, but I do feel like they can come out in the playoffs and start winning some games. More about that later, though. As for the Ravens, 9-8, second in the AFC North. Who's going to be number 1? Pretty obvious to tell. It's going to be the Cleveland Browns. The first time winning the AFC North in forever. I have them going 12-5. What I gotta say about this team? Like I said, just about the Ravens, they got a really good run game. They're starting to build an offensive firepower under Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is slowly progressing each year. He's getting better and better. He's taking better care of the ball. He doesn't throw as many picks as he used to. And this defense is my favorite part now because they're starting to build up a defensive line, linebackers, safety. Once this team is fully healthy, all together, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham Jr., Austin Hooper, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, this team has names, and once they're all healthy and play together, this team is going to take names because they just got to be good. 12-5 for them, got them losing 5 games here, and that is the AFC North. So let's work our way like a compass, and we'll go to the East now, the AFC East. Alright, last in the AFC East, I'm going to have the New York Jets. Now, I do like what this team is doing, and I think this team had a really good offseason. They got a really good head coach. They got the defensive coordinator from San Francisco. Zach Wilson looks like he's done pretty good in training camp, even though he's only been playing for like a day or two. And they're starting to get weapons for Zach Wilson already. That's a great sign for the future. However, I don't think the future is now for the Jets. I think it's going to take some time, just like some other teams that had the number 1 and number 2 pick in the previous years. It takes time for those teams to develop, but the Jets are doing a really good job this offseason at signing and getting players to help Zach Wilson. As for now, I just think this year won't be the year. You gotta wait a little bit more time to, digest and become a team. So 4-13 for the Jets, and let's go to 3rd in the AFC East. And that's gonna be the New England Patriots. Now this team can be a playoff team. I see a lot of people want to put this team in the playoffs. I have them at 8-9, 3rd in the AFC East. Where do I find this team struggles? Well, that's kind of the hard thing for me right now because, the quarterback room is kind of a weird story between Cam Newton and Mac Jones. Cam Newton didn't have the best play, but he also didn't have really much to work with last year. I think this team's done better at getting players to help Cam Newton, but other than that, they just don't seem like the same team they were years ago under different management with Tom Brady in the system. This whole system, it's completely different. It's still not used to what they have. And it just gotta take some time. Like I said, just same thing with the Jets. This team's not gonna be good for like a bit. I don't see them being a mega contender this year, but I can see them sneaking into a wild card. It's just a whole different system for Cam Newton or Mac Jones. And once you have 2 quarterbacks to bounce between, it's just hard to win games because you just don't know who's gonna start. As for the Patriots, 8-9, I'm finishing 3rd in the AFC East. Let's go to the 2nd in the AFC East, and that is going to be the Miami Dolphins, 2nd in the AFC East at 10-7. Look, I trust this team quite a bit to win 10 games. Looking at the schedule, there's a lot of winnable games in that schedule. They can beat the division opponents, and I trust Tua quite a bit. I trust what they have building in Miami with this new offense. I trust Tua under the system. I think, getting his first official starts in a new season, not under Ryan Fitzpatrick, is what Tua needs and what Tua deserves. And I just trust them to win games. I think this is the Miami Dolphins' ceiling of wins, though. I think their floor could be like 7 wins. It's really possible that this team does not make the playoffs, but at where I have them right here, they sneak in. More about that later. So I have the Dolphins going 10-7. I also like this defense. It's led by Howard, even though he could be leaving the Dolphins soon. He's just not happy with his contract. I think there's leaders in this team, and I think those leaders are going to push this team to a 10-7 record. Let's go to the number 1 team, the AFC East, which you guys should probably already know. And that's going to be the Buffalo Bills at a 13-4 record. Why do I see this team being good? It's pretty easy. Josh Allen is getting better every single year. Stephon Diggs is one of the most underrated receivers in the game, but probably not anymore. Cole Beasley should come back. They just got the weapons they need on offense. As for defense, it's the same story. This team has always had a stable defense the last 3 years, and I think this team is really going to compete again, even though they just fell short. This team is good. It only gets better from here. There's really not much else to explain here. I have them losing the game to the Bucks, the Patriots, the Saints, and Dolphins. Those are some losable games, but other than that, looking at the schedule, they get some big wins, and they get some wins which are pretty easy to get. 13-4 for the Bills. That's the AFC East, so let's go to the South now in the AFC. Alright, the Texans, I'm going 5-12 and finishing last in the AFC North. Look, Deshaun Watson is the big story of the Texans, and Deshaun Watson is basically 50% of the Texans roster. If they don't have Deshaun Watson, I don't really know what else to say about this team. If they do, there's a little I can say about this team. I'm predicting this as if they still have Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson means a lot to this team, but because his team is so bad, being honest, he really doesn't mean that much at all. You know, this team can't win games with him because they just can't help him. He does not have the support cast. And now you talk about Deshaun Watson not being there possibly with all these allegations, and you just think this team could be worse than this. So I had to be fair with this one. I had to put him around 4, 3, 5 wins, and I decided to give him 5 wins, sneaking some wins with the Jets, Jaguars, Patriots, and on and on and on. And they lose a lot of games to start the season. This team is in a struggle right now, which they'll get their quarterback back or not. And as for now, I have them last in the AFC South at a 5-12 record. And let's talk about third in the AFC South. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 7-10. You got to say that's a pretty big improvement to have them, right? Because they were last year 1-15, and this year have them getting 7 wins, 6 more than last year, and I have them starting out 3-0 as well. Well, I do like what this team is doing as well. I think they're getting Trevor Lawrence weapons early, and that's what you're going to do when you get a rookie quarterback, is surround them with good weapons. And because of that, I think this team's going to succeed pretty early. However, I don't think it's going to stay. This team's not going to be a playoff team, let's just be real, but they can be pretty good. You know, they're starting to build up a whole new team. It's obviously not the Jaguars we know like 4 years ago when they made the AFC Championship, but this Jaguars is becoming something new, and I just think the offense can be pretty decent. We have a 1-in-a-million quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. You know, he's just a generational talent, and I think he's going to lead this team to a few wins. Obviously not going to make the playoffs, but at least they get something rolling early in Jacksonville and start of a possible dynasty with one of the greatest college quarterbacks we've ever seen, Trevor Lawrence. 7-10 for the Jaguars, into second in the AFC South. Alright, so second in the AFC South is going to be the Colts at 8-9. Look, this team is in a pretty bad spot right now. Carson Wentz just got injured. We don't know if he's going to be out for a month, or out for a week, or out for the whole season. We just don't know yet. This team has backup quarterbacks such as Sam Ehlinger and I think Jacob Eason. And I think they also just brought in Brett Hundley, who used to be the Packers starter when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. This team is in a weird spot right now. I think their defense is good, but it's not good enough to carry the offense. I do like what they're building on offense, but I just don't think it's going to be enough, especially with injuries coming in with their expected quarterback. So this whole system is going to be completely different. They got interrupted with injury, and they got to work around it. And working with injury is hard in this league. And I just think they just kind of split ways. They almost go 500, but they finished 8-9. They just barely missed out in the playoffs, and they just missed out on the division title versus the first in the AFC South team, which we'll go to right now. And that, of course, is going to be the Tennessee Titans, first in the AFC South at 11-6. This team has a big 3 building, which you could honestly just say big 4 now, because now you have Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, and now Julio Jones. Yeah, this team has something building in offense. As far as I'm concerned, though, I feel like this defense is still really easy to score on. They didn't improve it that much this offseason, but hey, at least they got better and more scarier on offense. That's what all that matters, right? I think they'll give them some wins, but their defense, you know, I think that's going to struggle them, but still, offense overpowers defense in this situation because their offense is just so good. And especially when you have Derrick Henry. I didn't mention this with the Ravens or Browns, but it's kind of important. When you have a running back that good, who gets that much yards, and who could possibly break the yards per season record with 17 games now, you're thinking about all the time of possession which is getting drained under that running back. And when you have the time of possession in your hands, you hold the football most of the time in the game, chances are you're going to win the game. And now you got to think about it, Ryan Tannehill, who's a pretty good passer as well, if he doesn't want to run it to Derrick Henry, he can look downfield to Julio Jones or AJ Brown now. So his options are there. They can win the game on time possession. They could run the ball the entire game and win games because of Derrick Henry. And I just see this team being good on offense because of that. They have the time possession advantage, and they can also pass downfield now with Julio Jones and AJ Brown, just like how they were doing last year, except minus Julio Jones. First in the AFC South for the Titans, and let's go to our final AFC division, which is the AFC West. Alright, the AFC West, this is a hard division to predict. I'm going to have the Broncos at 6-11 the last one. I don't like this call, I'll be honest. Like I said, I stick with my predictions, but this one is a hard one to swallow as well, because the Broncos, they have a chance to be like the 2018 or the 2017 Jaguars or Bears, you know, those teams where they just had really good defenses, but they had bad offenses. That's what I see out of this team. I think this team can have a really good young defense in the years to come, but their offense is lacking a lot. I still don't trust Drew Lock, and I still don't trust Teddy Bridgewater, to be honest. So I just hope this defense can carry him. That is what I don't know. I just don't know if this defense can carry this offense, and that's where I'm going to leave this out on. I'll have to wait and see this season to see if this defense is good enough. As for now, I'm not too sold on the Broncos. I want to see good out of them, but for now, 6-11, finished last in the AFC West. Let's go to third in the AFC West now. And that's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders at 7-10. Once again, I can see this team being much better than this. I mean, think about their offense. It's pretty decent, isn't it? And they got a new stadium, and they're about to have fans in the stadium too, and they're about to be rocking, and they got Darren Waller, they got Derek Carr, and they got Henry Ruggs, and they got Josh Jacobs, and all of this, it just makes me want to say this team has to be good. It makes me just want to say, yeah, this team has to win games. But now you got to think about as well, which I'm going to bring up division again, is you got to play the Chiefs twice a year, you got to play the Chargers twice a year, and you got to play the Broncos defense twice a year. Not to mention, look at your schedule. The Steelers, the Chiefs, like I said, our Chiefs, Washington, a really good defense. Starting off with the Ravens, Dolphins, Colts. This does not get any easier for the Raiders from here on out. I want this team to be better, but 7-10 is where I have them. Maybe next year, like always for the Raiders. I just feel like I always say maybe next year because this team can never capitalize on the season they get. I feel like this team always collapses too, and I just hope for the best of this team. I want to see this team in the playoffs again. I like this team, but I just don't know if they'll come anytime or later. Second AFC West, let's go to them. Alright, second AFC West, I'm going to have the LA Chargers at a 10-win season, 10-7. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? I trust Herbert. I do. I think he's a really good quarterback. He was already competing with some of the best quarterbacks in the game last year, and now the Colts, or the Chargers, sorry, they went out and got Herbert, an offensive line. They got Corey Linsley from the Packers. They drafted O-linemen. They got some more O-linemen in free agency, I'm pretty sure. They got Keenan Allen. They got Mike Williams. And they're going to get Boza back. This team is building. Like, they're doing everything right for their quarterback, and that's how they're going to win games because they see the faith in this quarterback. It's a pretty good quarterback. Herbert is good, and I trust him to win games this year to make it to second AFC West at a 10-7 record. However, they're not going to top the number one team, which we already know who that is. Of course, that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them at 12-5. Yeah, that's probably not, you think the Chiefs are going to go like 14 wins. 12 wins is like, possibly. I have them losing 5 games, but still, they win the division. What I got to say about this team, best offense in the league, defense, it's whatever. I think the only concern I have is that they completely reshaped their O-line. They saw how their O-line performed versus the Bucs defense, which that defense is incredible on the line. So they just had to reshape their O-line. So I don't know how their O-line is going to play out quite yet. One of the most important factors is protecting the quarterback. That's why the O-line is so significant. And if they can't do that, well, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be in some trouble. Might throw some picks, might get sacked. It's on the O-line at this point because they have the receivers and their defense can hold them in games. So 12-5 is out of the Chiefs, and that's done with the AFC. So we're going to go to the NFC North now. All right, so we start the NFC with the NFC North, and in fourth is the Lions at 3-14. Look, Jared Goff, he's not the best quarterback, to be honest. I think he's just always been in a good system with the LA Rams. So coming to Detroit is a whole different pace of scenery. And it's Detroit. I mean, what more do I have to say? I think this is the year where they finally get a draft pick, which is going to help them significantly. And because of that, 3-14, new quarterback change. This team, I don't see him being any good, to be honest. I hate saying it because the Lions have always been bad, but 3-14 for the Lions, only getting 3 wins versus the Eagles, Cardinals, and the Bears, and they finished last in the NFC North. Third in the NFC North now. And third is going to be the Chicago Bears at 6-11. Okay, so this team also had a change in quarterback to Justin Fields or Andy Dalton, so that already kind of eliminates some wins because changing quarterbacks is going to be a big struggle, especially in this division. And you guys think about this, is that their defense is no longer the spot they were 2 or 3 years ago. Their defense has been reclining, and their offense has not been improving to the scale to match their defense, and they just kind of waited too long, and now they're just kind of a mediocre team again. They waited too long, they had something really good in the defense, they couldn't win, they became a one-and-done team, and because of that, they're end up going to fall to a 6-11 record, my prediction at least, and they're going to finish third in the NFC North to second now, in which second NFC North is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, where do I start with this team? Let's talk about the offense, because I think Kirk Cousins is actually an underrated quarterback. There's really not much to say because I think he can lead this team. He's been doing it in the last few years. This team has been winning games. The only reason why this team was not good last year is because they got off to an awful start. They started 1-5, and I can see a lot better for this team right now. Even though having losing 3 games at the start of the season, I think this offense is good. I think the defense has always been stable. So I have the Minnesota Vikings getting an above 500 record and going 9-8 in the NFC North, but they fall short of the division title to, of course, this team. And that, of course, the Green Bay Packers, first in the NFC North. I don't have them as dominant as the last 2 years. I only have them winning 11 games. But, of course, this team is hungry for a title. Aaron Rodgers, who's been in this really weird situation the entire offseason, he comes back and he is desperate for a ring, as he should be. He gets Randall Cobb, one of his most trustworthy wide receivers, back. He's developed weapons. You know, he's one of those quarterbacks which makes his weapons look good. And their defense has been doing really good these last 2 years. It's been keeping them in football games. And because of that, this Green Bay Packers team should, once again, repeat the division title and have a chance to win a ring. I don't have winning 13 wins like the last 2 seasons, but I still think this team will be able to compete past the regular season and into the postseason for a Super Bowl ring under those circumstances, with a good defense and a very desperate Aaron Rodgers who wants a ring and wants it now. That's NFC North. Let's go to the NFC East. Alright, we start the NFC East with the 4th place team, and that's going to be the Eagles. They have them going 4-13. I like Jalen Hurts, and I think Jalen Hurts can be a good quarterback, but as for now, I don't see anything going on with this team. I think for every piece this team loses, they don't get better. I think Carson Wentz is kind of like the last straw. Once they lost him, this team kind of, started falling down a little bit, and now because of that, they have to rebuild a whole entire new system under a different quarterback, and I just think it's going to take time from here. You can give him a top 5 draft pick this year. Don't see him being good. That's all to say for the Eagles. They get a win versus Niners, Raiders, Saints, and Giants, and that's just all I gotta say. Let's go to the 3rd place team in the NFC East, and that's going to be the Giants. This team, I actually see them, which they can compete for the division title, but I have them falling short. I just still don't really trust Daniel Jones that much. I think this team has a really good defense now, but, this division is really weird because you're going to have 3 teams competing for it. This team I have them falling just short at 7-10. Do they possibly get it next year, or they can possibly get it this year too? But I think this team will be good in the future, but right now they got to worry about Washington and Dallas because they're always going to be competitive. Even the Eagles will always be competitive. I'm going 7-10. I think this team will be better than the record portrays, but not good enough to beat the 2nd or 1st team, which let's go to the 2nd team in the NFC East. And surprise, surprise, that's going to be the Washington football team. I actually have them going 8-9, not above 500. A lot of people expect this team to be good, but one thing I have to say is that there hasn't been a repeat NFC East division title winner in the last decade. So this team, or this division, it's competitive. It's going to be back and forth. It's not going to be stable. I don't think Washington's going to win again. I think another team, which we already know who's going to win it now, is going to have a better chance at it this year, and I'll explain why. But Washington, good defense. Don't know what to say about offense yet. Ryan Fitzpatrick, new system. Once again, when you get a new quarterback into a new system, it's hard to win games. I think they will win some, but other than that, I think they struggle. The defense is what keeps them in games now, and that's what's going to keep them in games this year. And so for 8-9, just fall short of 500 and fall short of the playoffs and the division title to this team in the NFC East, which is going to be the Dallas Cowboys, first in NFC East at 10-7. A thing I have to mention is Dak Prescott, and either you hate the Cowboys or not, you gotta admit Dak Prescott was leading this offense to one of the greatest offenses last year. He actually kept them up to big numbers. They had like the best yards per game as well. He was hitting the end zone. Dak Prescott was doing it all for this offense, and he was allowing this team to be good. But once he got injured, this team fell down. Now with Dak Prescott back, hungry than ever, healthier than ever, he should win games for this team and should lead them to a possible division title, as I have him here, 10-7. I think the Dallas Cowboys can win with Dak Prescott back, and division title goes to them. 10-7. That's the NFC East. Let's go to the NFC South. We will start the NFC South with the Atlanta Falcons at 6-11. Okay, I think this team does one thing wrong, and they always try to build on their offense, and they never try to build on their defense. I like Kyle Pitts. I think that was the greatest pick they could have gotten in the draft there. But I just feel like they don't get what they need out of their defense. I just feel like they're just still trying to build this system which they had a few years ago, and they keep on failing, and they just can't get back up to where they were Super Bowl contention wise, because they just can't build a defense anymore, and they just don't have the players they need. They keep on going into offseason like, okay, we need a running back, we need a receiver, but they don't go into offseason like, okay, we need a defensive end, we need a safety, and I feel like that's the problem with the Atlanta Falcons. New coaching staff as well. I think it's going to take some time for this team. I think, to be honest, Matt Ryan is good, but once Matt Ryan leaves, this team needs to go to full rebuild and become the Atlanta Falcons they once were and get that ring, which they should have had which we still not going to talk about. Come on, Atlanta Falcons. 4th NFC South, 6-11, and let's go to the 3rd place team in the NFC South. And this one could be a surprise. 3rd in the NFC South is the New Orleans Saints at another 8-9 team. Yes, I have a lot of 8-9 teams, I know. Why is that? Well, originally in the previous prediction video, it was like, they just lost Drew Brees. They didn't lose anything else. But now looking at it, this team has not been doing so well recently with the roster. They're having trouble with a quarterback. They have some suspensions. They have some injuries. This team is all over the place. This team lost more than just Drew Brees. They lost their leader. They lost their chemistry, and they lost their will to win games. Having started off the season losing some games, I only have them rebounding a few times. But just because of that, all those things I listed, I just don't see this team going back to the Saints they once were. They're not going to win this division. Let's just be real. I mean, they can compete, but I don't see them making the playoffs this year. 8-9, under 500, and Drew Brees, it just shows how much he was for this team now being gone and retired with a retiring life. 2nd NFC South is going to be the Carolina Panthers, which will actually have them at 8-9 as well. I like this team. I think this is going to be the year where Sam Darnold has to prove that he's actually a decent quarterback. He's been in a bad system all his career. So if Sam Darnold steps up to the plate and hits a home run, then I think this team will be sold on him. And I think he does. I think he wins enough games to beat this team, be like, okay, you know what? We're excited for the future. And, I just trust this offense. Christian McCaffrey comes back, too. It should be one of the greatest running offenses as well, just like last year. Or, just like the Titans, sorry. And I just think, looking at it, this team has to be good in offense with those puzzle pieces fit in now. Defense-wise, they'll figure it out. Still got to build a defense, which they once had. But 8-9 for the Panthers, I think it's respectable. But not, of course, good enough to beat the number 1 team in NFC South, which is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 14-3. Okay, the Buccaneers, Tom Brady, and this entire team, they brought back every single starter from their Super Bowl roster. This team started off pretty poorly last year, but once things started getting under control, they ended up winning like 8 games in a row, ended up winning the Super Bowl, ended up winning every game on the road until they got to the Super Bowl and won it in Tampa Bay. Now you got to talk about they come back with exact same mentality and exact same message, exact same starters, all 22 starters in offense and defense, and they have the exact same mission. It's to win the Super Bowl again. And Tom Brady proved it last year that he is not some 40-year-old man. He is still competing for rings. Though I would say Tom Brady was not the main reason why they won the ring last year. It was the defense. He is still a really good quarterback. He was top 5 in MVP talks last year. We just don't talk about that. And I just think, once again, this Buccaneer team is going to repeat success in the NFL. This time, even better because they have the chemistry already built. 14-3 for the Bucs. That's NFC South. And let's go to the final NFC division, which is the West. And let's talk about my most controversial pick in the video. It's the Seattle Seahawks at 4th. How do they go from first to worst in their division? Let me explain. This team allows every single team to stay in games. They do. Russell Wilson, he's good, but I just don't trust this team anymore. I just feel like they always allow teams to score on this defense. It's not the same. I feel like their O-line has never been able to help Russell Wilson. I just feel like they haven't been able to run the ball since Marshawn Lynch was there. I just feel like this team is completely different now, and I just see them struggling so much with these things. They can't get the quarterback because they don't have the Legion of Boom they once had. They can't really protect Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson usually runs for his life a lot of times, and because of that, I want Russell Wilson and the Seahawks to be good, but with all these problems I listed, the only things I can really give them is DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson. That's kind of it. There's really not much I see for this team, and their division is tough. This is the toughest division in football next year, and because of that, I see them struggling in the division and with the schedule, facing, the Packers, Titans, Steelers, Saints, Colts, Rams, Cardinals. That's a tough schedule. Washington, I'm sorry, Seahawks. This could be a year where you guys fall a little bit in the NFC West. Going to 3rd now. And at 3rd, I'm going to have the Arizona Cardinals. And they actually go above 500 at 3rd in the division. 9-8. This team is kind of old, but they have all the pieces in place. They have Chandler Jones. They have J.J. Watt. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They have everything they need. Even though they're kind of an old team, except Kyler Murray, they should be able to compete this year. I think this will be the year where they kind of like one and done, and then next year they won't make the playoffs just because, like I said, they're kind of old. The entire team has always been kind of old. It's still a lot of players from the 2015 era, but now it's kind of slowly getting out of the prime. And, I just feel like the team will have a good year because of that, because there's still a lot of good players on this roster. I think they'll be able to compete this year. Good defense, good offense. It's all I got to say about the Cardinals. One and done season possibly, maybe even better, maybe worse. I don't know. Let's go to second in the NFC West. And that's going to be the San Francisco 49ers at 10-7. It's a hard division. And the Niners, who, went like 6-10 last year, only because they got injured. They got killed with injuries. And now coming back, everybody's off injury now. You got your entire linebacker crew back, your entire defensive ends back. You got everything back you need. Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, whichever one you want to start, that's not really the problem. The problem is that you didn't have a defense last year, and now you do. That's the difference. This team has their defense back. This team should compete for a Super Bowl ring just like how they were 2 years ago. It's the same team realistically. It really is. Their run game is fast. The receivers are young and fast. Everything this team has is back from their Super Bowl run, and I expect them to make a shot at it again this year. 10-7, but they fall short of the division title to this team right here. In which our final prediction for this video, and first in the NFC West, is the LA Rams. This team had one of the best defenses in the league last year, and there was only one thing they were missing: a quarterback. What did they do? They got a quarterback. They got Matthew Stafford, who has always been a good quarterback, but has always been in a bad franchise. Now he's in a good franchise. Now he has a defense, and this team just has to be good. There's just nothing else I can say. This team has to be good. Matthew Stafford and a good defense. It's what he's been needing his entire career, and now finally got it, and they should be able to compete. Aaron Donald, scary on the line. Jalen Ramsey, scary to pass to. They threaten other teams now, and now they can threaten teams in offense. They weren't able to do that last year, but now they can with Matthew Stafford. Even though Cam Akers got hurt, they should be able to replace him into free agency or offseason with some running backs, or just be able to develop a new run game with a different running back. Receivers, we know the story: Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee. This team should win the NFC West, in my opinion, at 13-4. And with that being said, that's all 32 teams' records. However, that's not it. There's still the playoffs, and you're probably saying, like, this video's over. There's not much time left. That's because there has to be a part 2. I don't want to make this video too long. Part 2 will be up tomorrow with the playoffs, the postseason rewards, MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player, Coach of the Year, all of that. This is just the game-by-game predictions. We'll talk about the playoffs tomorrow, and I'll see you then. Thank you guys for watching part 1. Come back tomorrow for part 2, and comment down below what you think of my predictions. I'll see you guys later.